What's going on, guys? Tomo Talks in Wrestling here, and welcome to the first episode of the Worst of TNA. I haven't really thought of the name yet. I think that will probably be the name that sticks, but this is the series where we look back and laugh and talk about some of the craziest, most absurd and funniest moments in TNA's short but sweet history. I did a poll on my community tab, and out of the 5 options, the option that said the word CM Punk won, which I feel like I kind of should have expected. Part 3 of my documentary series about TNA will be out soon, so don't you worry about that. I'll leave links in the description to the first 2 parts for those who haven't seen them, so be sure to check them out. And if you are new here, be sure to subscribe, post notifications on, and follow me on Twitter to know when my next TNA videos are out. But anyways, welcome to the first episode of the Worst of TNA. Today, we look at CM Punk's forgotten run that he had with the company, which includes the story of a real-life fight he got into with a wrestler, so stay tuned for that. Not many people actually know that CM Punk was in TNA, and understandably so. I think it's for obvious reasons. His career is obviously most synonymous for his time he spent with the WWE, where he became one of their biggest stars of the last decade, and CM Punk's earlier career and his indie career is most closely associated with the time he spent with Ring of Honor, where he feuded with the likes of Colt Cabana, Raven, and Samoa Joe. So why has his TNA run never really been mentioned when talking about CM Punk and almost forgotten about? Well, it's because it was very forgettable and didn't really pan out the way it should have due to things out of both CM Punk and TNA's control. 8 years after his TNA run, he would break the internet, and to this day in 2019, people still chant his name despite the fact that he retired 6 years ago. So how did that guy, this huge star that people still chant for, have such a forgettable run in TNA, but then go on and still manage to become one of wrestling's biggest stars of this millennium probably? Let's get into it. CM Punk would start working with TNA while he was wrestling with Ring of Honor. This was very early onto his Ring of Honor career, so he was still yet to become the massive star there that he eventually would become in Ring of Honor. CM Punk's stint in TNA was very short, only lasting from June 2003 to April 2004. He would join Raven's stable while in TNA, called The Gathering, as one of its side pieces along with Julio De Niro and Alexis Lurie, aka Mickie James. So that's kinda mad. But she would soon leave the stable and leave TNA as she was signed by the WWE. There was a big underlying problem with CM Punk being aligned with Raven, and that's the fact that while he was wrestling in TNA, he was still wrestling in Ring of Honor, like I said before, and in Ring of Honor, he was in the midst of a intense feud with Raven. Punk and Raven had a multi-month long feud, including many hardcore stipulation matches, and was considered one of the top feuds for Ring of Honor for the year 2003. So on one show, CM Punk is Raven's biggest fanboy, and on the other, he's trying to beat him up. There was no continuity, and that was quite a problem. But luckily, CM Punk and De Niro would end up turning on Raven on December 17, 2003 during a 6-man steel cage match, and after this, Raven would disappear from TNA, and Punk and De Niro would end up aligning themselves with Raven's longtime rival, James Mitchell, and keep the name of The Gathering. So far, not bad for his run. Obviously, it's nothing amazing, but again, CM Punk was still yet to become that massive star in Ring of Honor that he would eventually become, so it isn't expected that he'd have this star-studded run immediately in TNA. However, Punk's appearances in TNA came to a very sudden halt. Prior to a TNA show on February 25th, 2004, CM Punk got into a heated and physical exchange with Teddy Hart outside of a restaurant that Sabu of all people had to break up. Of all people, Sabu. The altercation allegedly stemmed from a match the two were a part of in Ring of Honor. The two were a part of a scramble cage match on a November 1st, 2003 Ring of Honor show in Elizabeth, New Jersey, which saw Teddy Hart get major heat from other wrestlers because after Hart lost the match, he started performing moonsaults and a shooting star press off the top of a cage and no-sold all the damage that he took in the match. All these spots were unplanned, and he got lots of heat backstage and from other wrestlers for being reckless and putting the other talent at risk for performing these unannounced and unplanned spots that weren't meant to happen. Hart attributes his actions to a concussion he received during the match, but regardless of all that, he still got lots of stick from other wrestlers, and CM Punk clearly wasn't having it even 4 months later, and they had that fight outside the restaurant. But around the time that Punk and Hart had their fight, him and his tag partner Giulio De Niro suddenly just stopped appearing in TNA. This led to a lot of speculation that the fight had got CM Punk in hot water with TNA officials, or possibly even fired from TNA. However, Punk claims that this was not the case. He says that his fight with Teddy Hart outside the restaurant had no effect on his TNA career, and instead, he stopped appearing on shows because TNA officials didn't believe that he and Giulio had connected with the fans as heels, and thus put their storyline with James Mitchell on hold and had absolutely zero plans to use CM Punk and Giulio De Niro. CM Punk would officially leave TNA in March 2004 because of a major controversy in Ring of Honor that would lead to TNA ending their working relationship with the company. Ring of Honor founder Rob Feinstein was found out to be sending creepy messages to who Rob thought was an underage boy, and as it turns out, this was actually an adult posing as a minor, and news outlets began picking up this story that Rob Feinstein, the Ring of Honor founder, was messaging an underage boy, or at least trying to. Because of all the controversy he received following the publication of this story, Feinstein would resign from Ring of Honor, and TNA would end up ending its talent sharing agreement, preventing the likes of AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, who were both champions in Ring of Honor, not letting them work for the company, and people like CM Punk were left with either a choice to stay with TNA or stay with Ring of Honor. And despite the controversy that had happened with Ring of Honor, Punk evidently chose to stay with Ring of Honor, and understandably so, because this was probably due to the fact that he was not being used in TNA and probably saw more worth in staying with Ring of Honor to further his career. And that was kind of it for CM Punk's career in TNA. It lasted less than a year, and while his career went nowhere, that short less than 1 year stint had so much there. He got into a fight with another wrestler, was forced to leave because the owner of a company that he works for was found to be a pedophile. It's a crazy story. It sucks that TNA weren't able to recognize his star power, and it's crazy to think that despite the hardship he had in TNA, that he would still go on to become one of WWE's all-time great heels, despite the fact that TNA officials thought he didn't connect with the fans as a heel. I mean, not only that, but CM Punk had multiple heel runs. He had the Straight Edge Society, and he had the heel turn midway through his WWE title reign. He was a brilliant heel and reinvented himself multiple times. And it's crazy that TNA didn't recognize that, but after his TNA stint, Punk would wrestle a 3-match series with Samoa Joe for the Ring of Honor World title, with the second match being the first match in North America to get 5 stars from Dave Meltzer in the past 7 years at the time. Punk would receive his offer from the WWE in June 2005, during which time he won the Ring of Honor Championship from Austin Aries and begun a storyline where he threatened to take the title to WWE, but obviously Punk would lose the title and he'd get his farewell match with Colt Cabana, losing to him in a 2 out of 3 falls match, his longtime rival and friend, and he'd go to WWE, and the rest, they say, is history. But just imagine if TNA were able to recognize CM Punk's star power, where he would have gone if they were able to do that. Would he still have ended up in WWE? Or would he have been a long-time member and top guy of the TNA roster? You know, it's pretty interesting to think about. He probably would have been the top guy in TNA just because of his raw ability in the ring and on the mic, but would have never seen his feuds with Brock Lesnar, The Undertaker, the Summer of Punk in 2011, the Pipe Bomb. You know, it's hard to know whether he would have got the fanfare that he received in WWE. I, however, do think it's a good thing that CM Punk didn't stay with TNA. They clearly didn't want to invest with him, and he's ended up having a very storied career because of the fact he chose Ring of Honor over TNA. And that decision effectively changed the course of his career and was a stepping stone to his amazing career that he would have with the WWE, becoming a multiple-time world champion, intercontinental champion, tag champion, you name it. I will say, however, that I kind of don't blame TNA for not recognizing it. I mean, he was paired with Giulio De Niro, who I haven't seen much about him, but from what I imagine, he probably wasn't a big star himself. And even so, it was early on in Punk's career, and at that time he wasn't even a star in Ring of Honor yet, so he was still an undercard, underutilized talent in every company he was in. But anyway guys, that's going to do it for the first episode of the Worst of TNA. We are now going to do a poll for the next episode, so go to my community tab. The 5 options are as followed: the TNA gut check incident, Damien Sandow's run with TNA, the Knockouts tag team titles, Sharmell versus Jenna Maraska, and yeah, actually I'll keep it on that. I won't do 5 options, I'll do just 4 this time round. So vote out of those ones: Damien Sandow's run, the Knockouts tag team titles, the TNA gut check incident, or the story of Jenna Maraska versus Sharmell, aka the worst match in TNA history. That's going to do it for this video guys. If you did enjoy, smack that like button, follow me on Twitter at Top10 Wrestling, and subscribe, post notifications on to stay tuned for more episodes of the Worst of TNA and my 4-part TNA documentary series, which has 2 parts left. And yeah, those 2 links are in the description, by the way, part 1 and 2, so check them out if you haven't already. And that's going to be it guys. I really appreciate the support on the last 2 videos. It has been absolutely surreal. It's been so long since I've got support like that on videos. So hello to all the new subscribers. We just hit 178k, which I know doesn't sound like much. Obviously it's not like a round number, but I was stuck on 175k for so long, and it's finally gone up. So thank you guys for that. I'll see you all soon. Goodbye and keep on rolling. Love you all.